Daf Ayin Aleph Amud Aleph, 6 lines from the top. Frag the Gemara Umi Islay Rava Greira. Does Rava hold of Greira? So we discussed previously that in a case where a person was Kotzer V'Tochan, he did Ksira and Tchina, he took and he picked a groigeris, a dried fig, and then he ground it up. He did the malach ksira tchina. Initially, he did it with shigir Shabbos v'zad malachas. That would be machayvim only one chatas for the both of them. And then later on, he did it in reverse. He did it with the zon Shabbos and shigas malachas, which would be machayvim a separate chatas for the ksira and a separate one for the tchina. So Rava says that in a case where he was found out on the ksira of Zod and Shabbos and Shigos Malacha is where that yediyah would be mechayvim a separate korban for the ksira. We hold a greira and it brings with it, it draws with him the ksira that he did previously, which was the ksira of Shiga Shabbos and Zod Malachas. Now that act of Shiga Shabbos and Zod Malachas, the Chi of Korban is one Korban for both the Ksira and the Tchina. So we say Greira, it drags with it, it draws with it the previous Ksira, and in that previous Ksira is considered rather to be Behelam Echad, that's considered to be in the same Helam, and that Ksira draws with it the Tchina. So the ksira that he did, the second ksira that he did, that's considered to be rather not greira, that's to be in the same helam as the previous ksira. And since the korban that he's bringing for the second ksira, it's considered to be in the same helam as the first ksira, therefore one korban suffices. Now, since that korban that he's bringing for the Zon Shabbos and Shigas Malachas, it entails the previous ksira. That ksira draws with it its corresponding tchina, and therefore that one korban suffices for the second ksira, the first ksira, and the first tchina. But the second tchina, which was done with Zon Shabbos and Shigas Malachas, which is independent of the second ksira, that's a separate korban. Abaya says, no, even that is drawn. The tchina that was drawn together with the first ksira draws with it also the second tchina. But does Rava hold a greira? If a person ate two zaysim, two kasais of chela behelam echad, so if it's behelam echad, there was no knowledge in between the two. In the intervening period, there was no yediyah. It's helam echad, so one korban suffices. So and then he discovered that on one of them that he ate it, but on the other one he didn't. And then before being aware that he ate that second kazayis chelav, he ate another kazayis chelav. So you had two kazayis chelav that were in one helam. That's one korban. Then he understood, he became aware that he ate one of the kazaysim, but before being aware that he ate the second kazay, he ate a third kazayis. Now, 1 and 2 are in the same helam. 2 and 3 are in the same helam. But 1 and 3 are not in the same, because by the time when he ate the third one, he was already aware that he ate the first one. Omer Rava, Hevi Korban al Rishon Miskap. So Rava says, if you brought a korban on the first one, since the 1 and 2 are in the same helam, they're in the same period of forgetfulness, it's one korban. Gimel Eina Miskaper, but since the third one was not in the same helam as number 1, so that's a separate korban. Hevi korban ala shlishi, if he brought a korban on the third one, shlishi v'sheina miskaper, because they are on the same helam. Rishon eina miskaper, because the first one is outside of that. That was not in the same period of forgetfulness. Hevi karnal Masai, but if he brings a korban for the middle one, it's kapra kula. He's in all of them. He has a kapara with all of them because the middle one is in the same helam as 1, and it's in the same helam as 3. 1 and 2 were done without realizing between them. 2 and 3 were done without an awareness between the two eatings. But between 1 and 3, there was an awareness. But so he brought the korban on the middle one. It's in the same helam as the one before and the one after it, so the one korban suffices. But Abaye Amar Afile Hevi Korban Al Echel Mem is Kapra Kula. But Abaye says it doesn't make any difference because it's true that they are not in the same helam. That 1 and 3 are not in the same helam. It's true that 1 and 3 are not in the same helam. But if 1 and 2 are in the same helam, and 2 and 3 in the same helam, you bring one korban. Let's say he brought a korban for number 1. Well, number 2 has a kapara with that because it's in the same helam. And now 2 and 3 is in the same helam. 2 is geirer, it draws 3 with it. And similarly, if you brought the korban for 3, it's not in the same helam as 1, but it's in the same helam as 2. So since 3 and 2 have a kapara with that same korban, and 2 and 1 is in the same helam, 2 is geirer 1, it draws 1 with it. So apparently this is a machlokes between Abaye and Rava, and apparently Rava does not hold of greirer. More answers, true. Initially, he did not hold of greirer, but then he heard this from Abaye and he accepted it. So the machlokes that we learned previously is after he already accepted Abaye's position, the basic position of greirer. Frank the Gemara, well, if he agrees with Abaye, so then if that's so, why does he argue with Abaye? And why doesn't he agree that the tchina, that if you say the ksira, the second ksira, and their machlokes is geirer, the first ksira, and that ksira is geirer, the tchina, the first tchina, why shouldn't he hold, like Abaye, that the first tchina is geirer, the second tchina? So Gemara answers, greirer isle, greirer the greirer, lesle. True, he holds of greirer. He accepted the concept of greirer from Abaye, but greirer the greirer, that's something which in itself is only has a kapara because it was nigrar, because it was drawn to it. That Rava holds, as opposed to Abaye, that Rava holds does not have the kayach to draw something else with it. So therefore he holds the second ksira is geirer the first ksira. The first ksira is geirer the corresponding tchina, because that is considered to be in one helam. That is only one chi of korban. It's be shigya Shabbos and zod malachos. But that tchina does not have the kayach to be geirer the second tchina, which is outside of it, which was done bezon Shabbos and shigya malachos. And Abaye says it does, and that's machlokes. Milsa the pshita Abaye v'Rava. This that was pasha to Abaye and Rava that we say greira is that is a shaila is the idboyetz miboyle Rav Zera. It's a shaila. Rav Zera had the shaila. The boy Rav Zera miravasi mirabiasi v'amalei boy minei Rabbi Yirmiyah mirav Zera called sevatachan if a person was kotzer. Now over here Rashi points out and it's elaborated by the Ritva. Over here, Kotzer v'tachan does not have the same meaning as what we learned earlier, ksira and tchina. The Kotzer v'tachan means when he did both. Over here, Kotzer v'hi, Kotzer oy, either or, one or the other. So it means one or the other. It's not both katsira picking it and grinding it up. It's one or the other. Kotzer v'tachan chatzi geregres b'shigos Shabbos zod malachos. So let's say initially he picked a fig. B'shigya Shabbos, it was Shigya Shabbos and Zod Malachos. The Shigya was Shabbos, he forgot Shabbos, but he knew the Malachos also. And then he picked again a Chatzi, it's a half a shear. Again, it's a half a shear, but this time it was Zod and Shabbos and Shigya Malachos. So they were both Chatzi shear, and it was the same Malacha, but it was different circumstances. One was Zon Shabbos and Shigas Malachos, one was Shigas Shabbos Zon Malachos. Ma'u Sheyitzdarf. Can we combine the two together? So now the basic premise of the machlokes and Abaye and Rava, or the halacha rather, Abaye and Rava, they argue on Tchina Geres Tchina. But the basic premise is that even though there one in previously he initially did one with Shigas Shabbos Zon Malachos, and then he did Zon Shabbos Shigas Malachos. The basic premise is that they are considered to be in the same Hela. It's considered to be as one haloma. It's as if he would have done Ksira and then Ksira again. If a person had done Ksira with Shiga Shabbos and Zod Malachos and then Ksira with Shiga Shabbos and Zod Malachos, that clearly would be he's doing the Malacha twice within one forgetfulness. You only bring one korban. It's like if a person ate chelav and then ate chelav again with one helm, it's one korban. Now, even though one is Zon Shiga Shabbos Zon Malachos and the other is the opposite, they both consider it to be with one helm, even though their difference between the two is considered one helm. They have machlokes and how far to extend greyer. But the basic premise is that even though there's a difference between them, there's a different type of shkaga, it's considered to be one helm. Now over here we have the shaila, there's a chatzi shir, and there's another chatzi shir. Can we be mitzaref the two together? He says they're chalukin l'chatois, they're considered separate. It's not considered like doing the same malacha behelam echad in the same forgetfulness. They're chalukim. They have chalukim and chatois. If you would do it a kazayas with Shigas Shabbos on Malachos, and then later another kazayas was on Shabbos and Shigas Malachos, it could be considered like two separate acts, two separate Malachos and two separate chatois. So therefore, if he did twice a chatzi shir, a half of the shir, it cannot be combined to be machayev a korban. You mean to say whenever there is a chiluk in the chatois, you cannot combine them together for a shiur. V'atzanan, we learned in the Mishnah, if a person ate two kazaysim of chela b'helam echad, he ate a kazayis of chela, and without being aware that he did the avera, he ate another kazayis. That's only one korban. But if he ate different types of isurim, it's not the same isur. It's chelev, it's blood, it's dam, it's noiser, pigol, behelam echad, even though he did not become aware of the chet in the intervening period, nevertheless, chayv kol achas v'achas. He's chayv for each one because they're separate averas. Su chaymer b'minim harbe mimin echad. This is the chumrah that different types, different isurim have over one. If he did the same isur over and over again, as long as it's in the same helem, doesn't matter how many times he does it, it's only one korban. It's minim harbe, it's a separate korban for each one. So zu chaymer b'minim harbe min echad v'zu chaymer b'min echad min harbe. But the following is the chumrah of min echad of one type has over other types, of many types. What's that? Shim achal chatzi zayis. If a person ate a half a zayis, so chatzer v'achal chatzi zayis min echad. If it's from the same min, so it's for instance, a half a zayis of chelev, another chatzi zayis of chelev. Chayim, he's chayim. It combines together. Mishnei minim potter. But if it's two separate minim, it's chatzi zayis of chelev and a chatzi zayis of noiser. It's not. It does not combine. And we ask, if you tell me that it's mimin echad, is there a chiddush over him? Of course. It's considered like eating a kazayis. If it's eaten within the shir kedei achilas pras, if there is no yediyah in the middle, so that is, of course, it's like eating a kazayis. So he ate a chatzi zayis, he paused a little bit, another chatzi zayis, that's eating one kazayis. Of course he's chay. Why do you have to tell me that? What is the chiddush over here? We're not talking simply in that pashut case. It's a chatzi zayis of chelev, a chatzi zayis of chelev. Of course, it's over there. It's considered like one achila. What are we discussing over here? That they were cooked differently. For instance, one was cooked and one was roasted. So it was prepared separately. And it's Rav Yeshua, the shita of Rav Yeshua holds that if they're prepared differently, we treat them like different minim. So that's what he says. If they are prepared differently, they're treated like different minim. And if there's a kazayas, one is roasted and kazayas, one is boiled, it's not considered like the same min over again. It's treated separately, like it's two different types. So ma'od the same amar Yeshua ben lakula ben lachumra. So you might think that we treat it like two different minim, even lakula, and therefore, and where it's lakula or lachumra. So and therefore you would say that in this case, where this comes out to be a kula, when it's a chatzi zayis, a roast, and a chatzi zayis, a boil, if you treat it like two separate minim, it's not mitzvah. You might think that Rav Yeshua takes it to that extent that they treat it like two separate minim, and therefore even the kula that we're not mitzvah over it, kemash malan, that's the chiddush he's teaching the lekula layamar lechumra koamar. They didn't say lekula. He only said l'chumra. So if you have a kazayis, a roasted, and a kazayis, a boiled, it's considered two separate minim. But I have a zayis on that because that would result in a chumra. But if you have a chatzi zayis and a chatzi zayis to treat it as two separate minim, that would result in a kula. We don't say it. Now, so what do we want to prove from here? Now here, the chalukim lachatos, if it would be a kazayas of each one, there would be cholek, they're two different minim, the chalukim lachatos, they come mitzaref, and nevertheless, they are mitzaref, a chatzi zayis and a chatzi zayis is mitzaref. So you are saying that when they're chalukim lachatos, if it's zod and shabbos and shigas malachas, it's not mitzaref, shigas, shabbos and zod and malachas, it's not considered rather one helem. It's not considered because they're chalukim lachatos. You see over here that even though the chalukim lachatos, they are mitzarefim. Omrele mar aresha maslev akashale. And according to the way you learn it, it's a kasha because you're learning that this is going on the resha. But anana seifa maslina level kashalan. But this over here, this memra over here, I learned it's going on the seifa, and therefore it's not a kasha. What's the seifa? The seifa says mishnei minim potter. It's going on the seifa. The seifa says mishnei minim. For instance, you have a kazayis of chelav and kazayis of noiser, so it says mishnei minim, then you're potter. The seifa says if you have a chatzi zayis of chelav and a chatzi zayis of noiser, it's mishnei minim. It's not misnarif and it's potter. Since they're two separate minim, you cannot combine the chatzi zayis of noiser, chatzi zayis of potter. So tzrich l'meimar. So of course you can't combine them. He hasn't eaten the kazayis of anyone iser. So of course, if it's a chatzi zayis of chel chatzi zayis, you cannot combine them. And on that, that's what his memories. On that, he's saying lo ila mimenecha. No, really, we're not talking about two separate, completely separate. We're not talking about a chatzi zayis of nice and a chatzi zayis of chelev. We're talking about, for instance, a chatzi zayis of roasted chelev and a chatzi zayis of boiled chelev. And that's what it's going on. So that's what it's saying. V'may correlation in minim shachla mishnei tamchoyim. So it's not two separate, completely separate minim. It's not like chelev and noiser or chelev and dam. It's talking about chelev, for instance, or when one iser that was prepared in two different dishes, and it's going according to Yeshua says that tamchoim mechalkim, that we treat it as two separate minim. And the chiddush is that Yeshua says we treat it like two separate minim, not only lechumra to be chayev and to chalukim lechatos, separate chatos, but even in this case where it results in a kula, that if he ate a chatzi zayis of roasted chelav, chatzi of boiled chelav, if we treat it like two minim, it's not mitzarv and he's not chayev achatas. Nevertheless, we say we go lekula, we treat it like two separate minim, and it's not mitzarv. That's what it means. So therefore, you have no kasha. We don't see that something which is or they're chalukim lechatos that they are mitzarf. We don't see this. So there's no kasha. Where you're saying that this case over here is when it's shnei minim it really means it's min echad and shnei tanchum. It's prepared in two different dishes. So mechlal, the reisha must mean that the reisha is min echad v'tamchu echad. So must mean the reisha where it says that it is mistaref. It's talking where it's min echad v'tamchu echad. It's one min and prepared in the same way. So min echad v'tamchu echad tzrich l'meimer. They have to tell me that it's a chatzi zayis of chaylev, for instance, roasted, and another chatzi zayis of chaylev that's roasted that's mitzdaref. Yes, clearly it's eating. It's pashut. It's eating a kazayas of chaylev. What's the chiddush over there? That's tzrich l'meimer. That would be a double pashut. But the chiddush is he did have a yadi. He did become aware in the middle. He ate a chatzi zayis of chaylev, let's say roasted chaylev, and then after he ate it, he became aware that he ate a chatzi zayis of chaylev. Now, being aware that he ate a chatzi zayis is not machayim a korban because there's no shir. But he became aware that after that he ate another chatzi zayis of roasted chaylev, and then he ate another chatzi zayis of it. Now that he had, you might say that, well, you can't combine them because it's not considered one helen. It's considered two halomas. He had a knowledge in the middle. He ate a chatzi zayis of roasted chaylev. He became aware. And then in another act of forgetfulness, he ate another chatzi zayis of roasted chaylev. Well, you might think that you can't combine the two because it was split up with a yediyah, with the knowledge that he ate a chatzi zayis in the middle. No, so that's the chiddush. Nevertheless, it's mistarv and we can combine it. He had an awareness in the middle. So Rabban Gamliel he domer en yedil chatzi shir. We're going according to the shita. Rabban Gamliel says there's no yedil chatzi shir. The yediyah means an awareness that he did something that is chayiv a korban. Now over here, if he had a yediyah in the middle that he ate a chatzi shir, that's not machayiv a korban. Yes, he became aware in the middle that he ate a chatzi zayis, but there's no consequence of that legabe the korban. He's not chayiv a korban. That does not split it up. So therefore, when he ate the second chatzi zayis, and after that he became aware, we do combine the two, and you're chayiv a korban, and a chayiv a korban from the chiddush is that en yediyah chatzi shir.